Hello, everybody. Welcome to our episode of Road to Retail. It's been a little while since we've had an episode. We've all been traveling and also going to Expo West last week. So we're excited to be back on our regular schedule. And today we have a very special episode. We are celebrating International Women's Month, as well as last week on March 8th was International Women's Day. So today we have a great episode for you, and I know you guys are going to get a lot out of it. So I first want to introduce our guest host today, Krista Anderson. Krista and I have been friends for quite a while and have done some business together. And I want Krista to introduce herself, and then we will introduce our special guest, Maya French, today. So Krista, tell our audience a little bit about you and your background.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Krista Anderson. I'm the founder and CEO of ESSTAR, an international natural food distribution and brokerage company with offices in the US and France. And our mission is to help create a preventative healthcare system by making truly healthy foods accessible to people in convenient locations such as healthcare, universities, airports, anywhere people are on the go. Our mission is to help them stay healthy.
Awesome. Krista, welcome. Thanks for being so gracious to be our guest co-host today.
I'm so excited to be here, especially with our guest that we have.
Yes, absolutely. So as you know, I'm Tracy Priest, one of the founders of Road to Retail. I have 30 years of consumer packaged goods industry experience in sales, marketing, done a lot, seen a lot. And really the purpose of our podcast is to educate and share insights to our audience, which is our small and emerging brand family. And we're very excited to have a great guest today. I did want to let you know that we will be posting our episode with Maya next week. So please make sure that you look out for us on LinkedIn. We're also have our own YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify and iTunes. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you will be able to find us. So thanks for joining us today. And Maya, welcome. Thanks so much for being on our podcast today. And for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about Maya French. I am so excited about this. Maya and I have worked together in the past at a little brand called Koia and had a great time, and just excited to have her today. So Maya, tell us, our audience, a little bit about you, and then we'll get into our questions.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me, first of all. Hi, everyone. So I'm Maya French. I started a brand called Koia back in 2013, and it is now one of the best-selling plant-based protein drinks on the market, and of course, the best tasting. Through that experience, I fell in love with this industry, and today, I help a lot of emerging startups basically emerging founders get their product from idea to actually on shelf, which is really, really fun. And of course, working on some new projects that will launch this summer, but I'm in stealth mode, so not going to say much about that. But my overall mission in this industry is to really create new and innovative products that, pave the way for other healthy products to be available in mass markets. And you do that by creating category disruptors. So.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maya. And it's great to have you. So we're going to jump into our questions, because I know that Maya has some great insights to share with our audience today. So Krista, I'm going to let you come up to bat first and ask the first question.
Well, Maya, I had the honor of meeting you last week at Expo West, and you're like dynamite, like just little in this little package, like dynamite comes in small packages. I was like, she is just on fire. And
Thank
it was
you.
so amazing. I just am so excited for this conversation today to learn more from you. Like, I'm inspired. Forbes 30 under 30, creating a plant-based beverage brand that I truly love and adore. The fact that it's functional and the ingredients that you guys chose to use in that is really awesome. So I know you've got a lot to give and to inspire the listeners today. So tell us, what would you suggest, or what advice would you give to small emerging brands that are starting out?
Yeah, there's so much advice to give, right? I think I would say with a lot of brands, and when I meet a lot of like, you know, emerging startups and startup founders, I think that it's important to be like open to feedback, and, you know, learn from your mistakes. I think the problem I see a lot is they're afraid to pivot when something's not working, because you have the mentality of like, you know, keep pushing it and you'll find a solution, versus just giving up in that one moment and just pivoting to the next thing, that will actually work, because when it works right away. It doesn't take 5 years to work.
Yeah, I know there's been times that when developing my company where I would get, like, I have this one focus and I see the business developing a certain way. And then you have customers that are, you know, giving different feedback. So it's hard to want to pivot because you think there's just you have one path, right? And to
Yeah,
make that change can be really challenging, you know, mentally too.
yeah, because it's like giving up on everything that and that you've researched and worked so hard, and you're like, I can't turn back now. I can't change away from it now. And then when you have so many opinions of other people, it's hard to really figure out what's the best route to take, because everyone has an opinion. And it even works when you're getting advice from other founders.
Exactly.
That's such a good point, because and I work with a lot of founders as well, is that they're so rigid and not flexible, or they're not open to other people's advice. And I call it, my baby's beautiful and everyone's going to love it. And that might not necessarily be
That's Tracy's tagline.
that's, as we call it, that's one of my bumper stickers.
Yeah.
My baby's beautiful and everybody loves it. And here's what I hear. Well, my whole family loves it. And I sell it on Saturdays at the farmer's market, and they all love it. So, you know, all the retailers are going to love it as well, and all the other consumers as well. And that may be true, or it may not be true, but you have to be open to feedback that says, you know, your baby's beautiful, but you know, where I was talking the other day, like, well, maybe your case pack can't be 90. It should be 12, or your price point can't be $10.99 when everybody in your category is $6.99. You know, so just all these things you really have to think about and be open, like you said, to other people's opinion. But again, on the flip side, you can't listen to everybody, right? You have to have just a certain number of people around you that you trust, you know, like a Maya on your team, to tell you, hey, this is the way it is, and this is reality.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you wanted to add there, Maya or Krista, on that point?
There's so much to add to that because it's like I can go down so many different, you know, ways. Right. And especially I think too is, you know, data. People need to look at the data too, and you know, run surveys. If it's not working on shelf, there's always a reason for it. And sometimes, yeah, that reason is the product. Sometimes it is the case size. You know, sometimes it is the price point isn't, you know, comparable to other brands, which are your competitors on the shelf. There's so many different reasons. But all in all, find the reason.
Right.
And don't keep going down the same path.
Right. Listen to either your advisors, the retailer will tell you. A lot of time your buyers might tell you this is why it's not working. Or like you said, great point, listen to your consumers. Do a survey. It's easy to do online surveys and consumer research now, way more than, you know, back in my day where you had to do focus groups and it was expensive and recruit people. Everything can be done now online and so much quicker. Don't you agree?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and I would add too, just really quick, is that, you know, I think depending on the situation, but it's important for us as entrepreneurs to listen to our intuition. You know, I've had advice over the years, you know, I would have filed bankruptcy if I would have listened to some of the advice that I've gotten. And, you know, because I listened to my intuition and was constantly reminded of the vision that I had for change in the US food system, and, you know, holding on to that. So I don't know, Maya, you've ever had, you know, somebody give you advice that you thought was very a prominent person in the industry. You'd think, okay, I need to listen to what they're saying, but you decided not to and go your own way.
I think I wouldn't be, you know, where I am today if I had, you know, sometimes you just have that like really, really strong gut feeling And
Yeah.
even though you could have, let's say you could have a whole group of investors and like all the people that you respect and, look up to with this one opinion, and in your gut that it's wrong. It's
Mm,
like you have to have the courage to go against the masses and make that decision. And 9 times out of 10, it's the right one. It's the hardest, because sometimes it's so easy to just like give in to things, even though your gut is telling you otherwise.
yes. Love that. Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great insight. So Maya, next question. So tell us about maybe and there's a lot, of course, there's a lot of content here, and we could probably talk for hours, but our audience would, maybe not listen. So we're going to hit the highlights today. So tell us maybe a couple of the mistakes that you've seen founders or brands make over the years, and what's the number one thing or two things that you would say, hey, you would need to avoid these. These are potholes. These are speed bumps that you need to avoid.
Oh man, okay. I can think of a lot. I could think of a lot.
Yes, I'm sure. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of it. What comes off the top of your head? One or two?
Yeah, I think they underestimate how long it takes to get into retail.
Mm.
I think that's a really important one. I think they think that, it's as easy as going to your mom and pop, but the like distributor paperwork, for instance, it takes time, to think about your like pricing strategy. There's like so many things, and there's so much money that you need in order to prepare to get into retail. And then when you get into retail, all the more things you have to do to maintain it. I think that, early stage founders really underestimate that, especially when they see, other brands just seem like they get retailer contracts like that, like, oh my God, we got nationwide Sprouts and this and that. And they think it's like that simple, but they don't know all the hard work and pieces that it takes to get there.
So it's a sprint, not a marathon, is what you're telling me.
Oh man. You know what? It I wouldn't say that, because I would say it's like it's a process. There's a process, right?
Right.
And there's a process to follow, which can seem like a marathon. And so most brands think they can sprint to retail. Yes. When it's actually, more like a marathon.
So one of the ones I hear a lot is, well, my next door neighbor's cousin knows a buyer at Kroger, so we're going to go ahead and get into Kroger. Have you ever heard anything? Have you heard? I've heard
every
that a
day.
couple times. Yeah. Or my second cousin, works at Sprouts, and so, I'm going to get into Sprouts. No, that's not how this works. But yeah, so no. It's a process.
Yes, it is definitely a process. And I think too, when you get into retail, I think a lot of brands underestimate the maintaining of relationships. Some people, they neglect to build relationships. Like when you're at Expo West, you should be meeting with your buyers, people that you've never had face to face with. Like, I think a lot of, founders, they so focused on raising money that they're just trying to get in front of investors all the time, instead of like building their relationships in the right areas, which when you build those relationships, that's when the investors come, because you're actually performing well in the stores.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things, maybe comment also on, I think small emerging brands underestimate the cost of getting into retail. They think, oh, I just get it on the shelf and everything's going to be okay. And Krista loves this too. My one of my bumper stickers is, it's not about sell in, it's about sell through. But getting on the shelf can be very, very expensive. Mm-hmm. You want to comment on that? I mean, what have you seen with some of the small emerging brands that you've worked with?
Well, okay, so if I could lay out the costs associated with getting on a shelf, if you're getting, set up with a distributor, you want to have enough stock in order to, stock the warehouse, which you need a lot of upfront capital to pay for the inventory in order to do that. Then you need to, understand like the freight costs that your margins are going to be deeply cut into when you work with a distributor. And so they don't really understand that, because now you have to address your pricing architecture to account for the different distributors, and you have to be very strategic about the distributors that you're using, and the strategy of the store. So there's so much that goes into it, and they think that when you're transferring from selling online and like selling direct, where you have like incredible margins, they think that transfers over to retail, and it's like on top of all of that upfront cost that you have to do with the distributor and the pricing strategy, you also have to pay for promotional spend.
Right.
So it's a lot of money, and if you're thinking about going into retail, you need to, I would say you need to raise about north of $1 million to get into retail.
And that's just to start.
Yeah. And on top of that, you've got what, 5%, around about 5% rebates with distributors. If you have a broker, you've got a percent you give there to maintain that relationship. It's a lot, huh? Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. You've got your retailer margin, you've got your distributor markup, you have your shipping. I mean, I've worked with brands where I'm like, well, does this price include shipping to the retailer? Well, no, they pay for that. No offense to our retailer audience, but they don't pay for anything.
Well, and then there's the whole thing where many distributors ask for a guarantee. If they don't sell through it in the warehouse, they want a refund, and lose quite a bit of money there. So
that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the things that I don't think small emerging brands also think about, is the cost of failure.
Yeah.
If you fail at a retailer, you're gonna, they're gonna want you to pick up all the inventory, mark it down, and then they're gonna ship it back to you, and you're gonna pay for that. No one thinks about that.
No one thinks about, and how about managing the charges that you don't have any idea what they are, and you don't want to necessarily be like, oh, forget it, I'll just pay it, because sometimes it just gets too out of hand. And then also paying someone to manage the charges.
Yes, deductions will kill you. Absolutely.
I'm curious though, Maya, what did you do to help with the sell-through, other than marketing, social media, promotional discounts for consumers? Like, how do you help push that through to get the attention of these retailers that, hey, this is a brand that we want to keep on our shelves?
Yeah, I think it was being very strategic about, first and foremost, it was like the packaging, right? Packaging had to stand out. When we first launched Koia, we had transparent packaging, which we thought was so cool, and it really didn't stand out on shelf. So it's like, first you need to account for self-discovery, and that's, being strategic about the call outs on the front of the package as well. But then on top of that, how do you support self-discovery? You do demos. And I think getting the product in people's hands is very important for sell-through, because you're catching people who are regular shoppers, you're catching new people. And if you're very strategic about your demo strategy, I think that you can really, really increase, you'll literally see in the data, if you're a retailer shares data, the jump in sales, when sales have become stagnant, you could really strategize what your sell-through will be, and also how to train your buyers on how much to order as well. Because I think out of stock is another issue that a lot of brands face. They don't know how to anticipate, what the buyer will order. The buyer's not really paying attention to, the sell-through of the brand, because maybe it's not popular enough. And, then you have out of stocks and you're not selling anything. You don't know why. So I think that's,
And to piggyback on what you said about the cost, demos is probably one of the most expensive marketing tools you'll use. Now, it drives a lot of volume, like you said, but to have somebody there for a 4 or 6 hour demo, and the product and coupons or whatever you're going to hand out, is a very expensive endeavor.
Yeah. But you know what? Our first year, super heavy on it. One retailer, which was Whole Foods, of course, and that was about focus, right? And then once we understood, the patterns, we were able to like take our foot off the gas a bit and
Right.
supplement that with, less expensive methods.
Right. Good insight.
So I guess
Krista?
that leads into our next question is, what type of mental checklist would you suggest to, these small emerging brands to get into retail?
Well, I would say first off, making sure that you have a scalable supply chain. A lot of brands, they have a really, really great product, but it's not scalable. And you have to anticipate, what if it goes gangbusters and can't actually supply what's needed. So I think that's one thing. I think, of course, having the right strategy is super important. You can get really excited when you have like a big opportunity from a major retailer and you think that, oh, all of your dreams have come true. But like, what if Target accepts you and you don't have what it takes or the money, that it takes to actually like support it, or it just isn't a good fit? So I think if you have the right strategy, and you understand who your customer is, or you have the correct like testing strategies to understand who your customer is, then you're doing a lot of you're building the foundation for like steady exponential growth over time.
So here's another bumper sticker, Maya. A retailer buyer hates not only a brand that doesn't sell, but a brand that doesn't ship. And so, and we've, due to COVID, we've had a lot of, supply chain issues. So when I meet with a buyer, one of the first questions they ask is, tell me about your supply chain. Are you getting components over, from overseas? Is there going to be a problem? Are you co-manufactured, or do you own your own manufacturing facility? Like, they want to do a deep dive into, to make sure, because I don't think small emerging brands realize that buyer is putting his or her reputation on the line by taking you in. And if you can't ship, then they have to explain that, to their boss.
Yeah.
And if you want to get the quickest way to get discontinued out of a retailer is not meet their, supply chain hurdles.
I agree. And then also not being transparent about your supply chain hurdles if they do occur.
Exactly. So a lot of small emerging brands, they don't want to call and tell the buyer, oh, I'm having problems. That's the worst thing you can do. As soon as you know there's a problem, my advice to a small emerging brand today is pick up the phone, call the buyer and say, I have a problem, but here's my solution. Don't hide. Don't hide. The problem will not fix itself or go away.
I would add too that the more transparent you are, it is a part of relationship building. And these people, like, they're experts too. They could offer you advice. Like, if you tell them your solution and there's like a hole in your solution, they could, steer you in the right direction. Like you said, their reputation's on the line too. Like, you guys are partners.
Yes. Treat your retail buyer like a business partner. When there's a problem, get on the phone, have a solution, but solve it together. The buyer will remember that down the road.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Krista, anything to add there?
No, I mean, I'm just curious, when I'm interviewing brands to bring into my Healthy on the Go program, I don't always choose brands that are really new because I feel like they're not ready for what it takes, right? What you're talking about here. But, I think there's also this path that, and I'm curious to know your thoughts, Maya, you don't have to be in Whole Foods right away, right? Like, there's this, so many opportunities to grow, to build the financial backing to then go to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call that playing small ball. I tell small emerging brands, start in your backyard, start regional, independents, or, some of your regional retailers, and then build it from there. Don't start at Walmart in 4,300 stores.
Yeah.
Right.
Career suicide.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And I've
Say it
seen
louder for the people in the back.
I've seen 2 or 3 brands lately. Their first retailer was Walmart.
It's
Yeah.
exciting.
But
That's
Yeah.
about it until it's a
society
nightmare.
that teaches us that this is success. Like having a glamorous website makes your business look more successful. I mean, that's not even true. You know, it's just changing that, shifting that perspective, you know, of doing it your own way, taking your own path that works for your business.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, good. So Maya, let's talk about fundraising. You've done some fundraising in your day back when you were at
Oh,
Koia, as well as, I know you've invested yourself. So maybe tell me, what as an investor, what do you look for in a brand? And then second part of that question is, what would be the best advice you could give? Because every small emerging brand out there right today is looking for funding. So, but
oh,
what do you look for in a brand when you want to invest?
yeah. Well, I think about personally, I'm like, does this brand fit my thesis? Like, is this a brand that's innovative? Does it have a possibility of like being like a leader in its category, like owning that one word in the consumer's mind? Like, does it have legs? Like Mezcla, for instance. Mezcla is the Puff Crispy bar. And then anybody who comes after them who tries to imitate them, they're just an imitator. And
Right.
there's so many different things that they can innovate off of the Puff Crispy. And so that is like something, and then they're high protein, low sugar. So also something that where the functional ingredients are actually functional, and protein, you can't go wrong there, right?
Right.
And the magic with that is making it taste good. So number one, out of everything, taste is king.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the other thing too is team. Like, how hungry are the founders? Like, how passionate are they about what they're doing? Why are they doing it? What's the story behind it? And yeah, I want to see like grit, resilience. And then also the ability to have resources, like go out and get their own resources on top of what I can provide, because if I'm investing in anything or advising anything, I want to make sure that I can provide value. I'm not just doing it because I like it. I want to be able to consistently provide value to a founder, to a brand, because now it's like it's a part of like my portfolio of like, what I believe in. So yeah, those are the things I look for.
Awesome. So what kind of advice would you give a small emerging brand trying to raise money?
Yeah, it's very difficult times right now. I think that what really gets investors excited right now are, big vision. Don't be afraid to like dream big. But I'd also say something I see very often too is brands focus too much on the brand and not really the product. So make sure that your first of all margins need to start at 40%. If you're under that, like, don't even try raising money. It's a waste of time.
Good. That's a great point. Great
Yeah.
point.
So it's like, get there, make sure you have a solution for a scalable supply chain if you don't have a scalable supply chain in place. And also I think that you should establish trust with your potential investors by being open and honest about your challenges and things that you might face in the future, because they want to know, basically you're bringing on investors as partners, right? And
Yeah.
you're hoping that you can utilize their resources so you guys can grow together. And so, you need to be open and honest about the challenges that you have, and you need to interview those investors to see if they have the resources to help solve those challenges, because otherwise it's just money, and probably annoying money.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're trying to give advice, or they're just ghosting you, and it's just money in the bank. So yeah, I would say just as much as, a lot of founders are like super vulnerable in front of investors, and they're like, oh, it's almost like, oh, pick me, please invest in my brand. It's so great. Instead of being like, this is why my brand's great. This is why it's going to change the world. and these are the challenges that I'm going to face. Do you have the resources to help me get to the next level? And can we grow together?
Such great insight. You know, the word that comes to mind is transparency. You be transparent, open, and honest with your buyer, with your investors, with your team, and everything will be okay. Don't sugarcoat it, or don't keep it to yourself like, oh, I don't want to tell anybody I'm having a problem, you know, because that is again, I think that's the worst thing that you can do.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But
Krista?
I love that about the energy of what you were saying going into it. Like, I don't need you, you know, this needy energy can be I mean, investors know why they're there, right? You know, they're needing money, but it's like being bold and confident in your mission of saying, you know, exactly what you were saying there, that this is the path I'm on. If you want to help me change the world or help me make a difference, then join me if you think, you know, this aligns with your vision too. But so I have a last question for you. I'm really curious to know the answer to this. What has been your greatest career success?
I mean, the obvious, yeah. Koia is amazing. That made my career. I mean, all the experience from it. But I think even deeper than that is, you know, as many lives as it's touched. It's like, you know, I'm like co-creating something that has touched so many people's lives in a positive way. Like people that in my lifetime, I won't even be able to meet millions of people, you know, face to face, but I've had an impact on their lives. And that's, to me, one of the greatest successes.
That's awesome.
So awesome.
That's just an awesome answer.
Yeah.
And that just comes from the heart. You can just tell. It just comes from your passion and your heart for people and improving people's lives. Never did you say, oh, and I made a bunch of money, because it wasn't right. It wasn't about that. It was about improving people's lives. And I just love that your heart and your passion for that.
Thank you.
And the awesome thing is Krista has that same heart. So
you do. I heard your mission and it's amazing. And I love the angle that you're taking with, you know, just getting into those underserved, or even just like most brands don't even think about those markets until later, until it's like, oh, what are the other distribution points can I make to boost sales? It's not with that mission in mind. So
yeah, and these channels of food service is a very healthy space to be in, but everybody thinks grocery right away, which is expensive to play.
As we talked about.
Yeah, you make the most impact in food service. You know, going through hospitals, going through schools.
Exactly. Hospitals, big mission for us this year. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about impact, right?
And
I love impact to the end consumer and the people consuming the product. That's what it's about.
We got to change this food system.
Yeah, and I think if you focus on those things, then good things will happen.
I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been a great fireside chat. That's all our questions for today. So Krista, tell our audience how people can get in touch with you.
Of course, on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty active on Instagram, KristaAnderson.co.
Awesome.
From you.
Maya French, tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Definitely LinkedIn, because I just found out I'm a LinkedIn influencer. Maya French is my name. And also Instagram, and there's an email link on my Instagram page. Maya J French is Jay. And yeah, feel free to shoot me an email if there's any inquiries or just comments about the show.
Awesome. It was so great having both of you on to celebrate International Women's Month and Day. And so I just encourage you, we will be putting the episode up on LinkedIn next week. So please take a listen, as well as on our YouTube channel, all under Road to Retail. We're also on Spotify and iTunes. So anywhere that you listen to a podcast, you can find us on there. And thank you, ladies, again for sort of being on today. It was great. It was insightful. And I know our audience is going to enjoy listening to it. Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Tracy.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.